Happy St. Patrick's Day, and welcome to the noon meeting of the Rotary Club of Baton Rouge. I'm your club president, Haggai Davis, coming to you for a couple of more times in the virtual-only world. We'll get to that a little more in a minute. Our speaker today is Walt Handelsman, who will be more formally introduced later, but first we'll start off with the invocation by Jill Garner.
And may we bow our heads in prayer. Oh, most gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to be together today in service of our speaker and give us ears to hear. And Father, may we leave this meeting with a deeper understanding of what you would have us to do to further your work in the world. In your name we pray. Amen.
And now we'll have the pledge led by Jacqueline Wilfong.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the four-way test is being led by Renee Chatelaine.
The four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Okay, we do have a few announcements. First, we're going to start with a video from Jenny Wendt of the MRCTI. Not the other one. The other, not that one.
The Mississippi River flows over 2,000 miles through the heartland of America, from its headwaters in Minnesota to the Gulf of Mexico. This river is the watershed for 32 states, and we are impacting it with our actions.
You know where she heard
The litter
this?
that we produce from coffee cups to masks or plastic bags can end up in the environment, making their way to our rivers and then into the oceans. Globally, this results in about a dump truck's worth of plastic entering our ocean every minute. The Mississippi River drains 40% of the continental United States, creating a conduit for our litter to reach the Gulf of Mexico. In September 2018, the mayors of the Mississippi River made a commitment to reduce plastic waste in the Mississippi River Valley. To support that commitment, the Mississippi River Plastic Pollution Initiative is working with volunteer citizen scientists, local communities, associations, and researchers to collect data to understand the magnitude of the plastics problem along the Mississippi River. Scientists need data on what's ending up in the environment so that we can use that information to address this important environmental problem. And you can be a part of the solution. Download the free Marine Debris Tracker app and choose the list entitled MRCTI to collect data on what plastic pollution looks like in your community. The data will be analyzed to help us understand the problem, which then leads to solutions that will help policymakers, businesses, and citizens alike take action. Join us today to ensure a clean river and clean seas for all.
All right, and so now we're going to... So we have Jenny Wendt with us from MRCTI. She's going to share a little more information with us about this upcoming trash pickup project. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Haggai. We're just going to give a little introduction of the project and how it came about. In September 2018, mayors from the Mississippi River announced a commitment with state legislators and companies on an effort to reduce plastic waste in the Mississippi River Valley by calling on government and organizations to reduce their plastic waste. This commitment was born out of the need for a collaborative effort to tackle this immense challenge. As cities across the country grapple with plastic waste littering their communities and waterways, the Mississippi River cities see it tenfold. Because the Mississippi River is a drainage system for 40% of the continental US, plastic litter travels through storm drains and tributaries to the Mississippi River. As the river ebbs and flows, plastic waste is either left behind in our river cities or makes its way to the Gulf and out to the ocean. The Mississippi River city mayors knew they needed to take action. The Mississippi River Plastic Pollution Initiative was designed to address this problem. MRCTI has joined forces with the United Nations Environment Program, the University of Georgia, the National Geographic Society, and local governments, organizations, and the education community to make this initiative a reality. This initiative is beginning in 3 pilot cities along the Mississippi: Baton Rouge, Louisiana, St. Louis, Missouri, and St. Paul, Minnesota, representing the lower, the middle, and upper Mississippi River, to create a plastic pollution map to determine what, where, and how plastic waste makes its way to the river. Mayor Carter of St. Paul, Minnesota, Mayor Cruson of St. Louis, Missouri, and Mayor Broome of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, made the commitment to support this initiative in their respective cities. Over 100 organizations are partners on this initiative, including multiple Rotary clubs and the Mississippi River Network's National Public Program, One Mississippi, which has a community of over 20,000 river citizens and will connect people to partner events in the 3 pilot cities. That's the basic overview of the project there, Haggai.
Great. Well, Jenny, I really appreciate you spending just a couple of minutes with us to give us some background about this. And as soon as we're done here, we're going to play the video that is on YouTube that everyone can see about the project. So thanks for spending some time with us.
That's fantastic. I look forward to working with you all as we move into Baton Rouge, April 10th.
Great. Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, so we got those videos a little inverted, but that's okay. You get the message. April 10th is going to be the picking up trash along the waterways in the neighborhoods and on the streets here in Baton Rouge, because the trash that is just on the streets when it rains winds up in the drains, which winds up in the waterways, which winds up in the lakes, in the Gulf and the oceans. And so any trash we can get off the street is a good thing. Any trash we can get out of the waterways is a better thing. And so we've got more details coming as we get very closer and closer to that coming. So another big announcement, April 7th, we are returning to Drusilla. We will be meeting back again in person. You all should have received an email from Sherry with the details, and it should have come out on Monday. And if you didn't get it, let us know. We'll resend it to you. You will have to register to be able to come to the meeting, just like we did back in October. We'll have 150 people capacity to start with at least for the month of April, just to get back in the meeting in person. And you will have to choose your plate, the salad or the entree, either one. And that's going to be very exciting. April 7th. So get ready, because I know I am, so that y'all don't have to just look at me on this silly little screen. So that being said, we'll move right along. We'll have Robert Travis come on and introduce our speaker. Robert?
Well, hello, everybody, and wish I could see you all, and I look forward to the time when we can all be together again. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Walt Handelsman, the editorial cartoonist for this multi-metro newspaper enterprise called the Times-Picayune and the Advocate. The newspapers cover New Orleans to Lafayette, and of course on the online world, it's seen by everybody. And Walt is also very widely syndicated with his work, so he is quite famous, and we're fortunate to have him here today. Walt and I met 25 years ago when we were both at the Times-Pic in New Orleans, and I was there in the newsroom when it was announced that Walt won a Pulitzer Prize. Very exciting moment for Walt, almost as exciting for him as when the Saints won the Super Bowl. It was not surprising that he went on to win another Pulitzer with Newsday in New York. And there he used traditional cartoons and he used flash animation. Walt was the first person to win a Pulitzer Prize for animation. Of course, he's brought that to us here in Louisiana as well. Now, he's won so many awards. I'm not going to try to list them all here. Let's just say it's a pretty darn impressive list. He also has a great collection of books. His most recent one is called I'm Drawing as Fast as I Can. And last night I was up reading this one called Draw Me Something, Mister, which is an older one. But let me tell you, if you get one of Walt's books for a gift or whatever else, I'm shamelessly plugging him here. They have a lot of shelf life and a lot of fun. Now, in his work these days, he does something that's a crowd favorite, and that's these cartoon caption contests. If you've been following the Times Pick or the Advocate, you can see these. They get 500 to 800 entries per contest, which is absolutely amazing and a great reader interaction. And Walt has to sift through them all and choose the winners. Now, Walt and I are the same age. And so I've really related to his age awareness as exhibited in his cartoons as he and I have grown older. And I'm really looking forward to some funny moments about Medicare here in the next couple of years. But as Walt and I got older, at some point, it must have been that both of us started experiencing twitchy legs in bed at night. You know, it's a sure sign that you're growing up when you have twitchy legs in bed at night. And he had a cartoon once that made fun of mature people with their twitchy legs. And it made me laugh, and it made me not feel special, which is a good thing. And then miraculously, I've never had twitchy legs since that cartoon. I'm not making this up. I saw the cartoon, I laughed. I've never had twitchy legs since then. So maybe just laughing about it cured it, I don't know. But I think the lesson is it's a busy, complicated, tension-filled world we live in. And sometimes you just need some perspective and a little bit of humor to deal with it. And that's the essential healing, uplifting thing that Walt brings to us. And it's miraculous, really, when you think about it. So bless you, Walt, for that. And ladies and gentlemen, Rotarians, I introduce Walt Handelsman.
Robert, thank you so much. And I'm thrilled to hear that my cartooning cured your restless leg syndrome. That is, I would say that's a first. And it's just fascinating, and it really brings me a great deal of joy. It's really fun to speak to the Rotarians, and I've not done it before online. I have met with your group several times. I remember it as being a rather large group and a fun group to speak to. And as with most groups in Louisiana, I find that the folks here have just an incredible sense of humor. Of course, the last year or so has been so stressful, and there's been so much division and fear and frustration and anxiety over not only COVID, but the political scene has been quite challenging. And then on top of that, as we all know here, we had an awful hurricane season. So there's really no shortage of cartoon topics. And I've brought a bunch of my cartoons along today to show you, as well as some rough sketches to give you an idea of the process that I go through. So I think on your screen now you're seeing the presentation. So I'll start running through these. So each morning, I look at the newspaper and go online and make a list of topics that I think will be good for the next day's newspaper. And after I have the topics written down, then the hard work really begins, which is trying to take a topic and find a metaphor or a punchline or a challenging piece of artwork that will illuminate not only the topic, but my opinion on the topic, and either have some fun with it or make a serious point. That process can take a long time. It can take hours to come up with an idea, or it can come very quickly. Depends on, well, I really don't know what it depends on, because that process is hard to describe. But the idea of coming up with an idea each day is the job of cartooning. The artwork to me is a sort of not as challenging as coming up with an idea. So what I do is I come up with some rough sketches and then I email them to my editor, Peter Kovacs, who I believe is a Baton Rouge Rotarian. And Peter and I either have a phone call and discuss them, or he will just shoot me an email back and say, let's do this one or this one. I usually send 2, 3, 4, 5 rough sketches. Some of them are on the same topic. Some of them are the same cartoon with different punchlines. And sometimes there are 5 different topics. This is where an editor will give his direction. And Peter and I have a very good working relationship. So this is usually pretty seamless. So this is what the sketches look like. Here's one that I did recently about the division in the United States. And this is a very rough sketch. This is what Peter would see. So this is Uncle Sam is split down the middle and he's saying to a doctor, do you have a vaccine for this? And then once I get this rough sketch approved by Peter, I'll go ahead and do the pen and ink drawing, which looks like this. So that is the actual pen and ink drawing. And then I'll scan the cartoon into Photoshop. And once it's in Photoshop, I will add the color. This is what the color layer looks like on this particular cartoon. And then it all comes together, and this is what you see in the newspaper. So that process from the time I begin in the morning until I'm completely done with the cartoon and ready to post it online and send it into the newspaper for print is anywhere from, usually I start at around 8:30, and my deadline is 5. So some days I'm done a little bit earlier and some days later, but it's generally a full day of work getting the process done. Here's another rough sketch. This ran today, and this falls into the category of so many of the topics that I've done this year, which are, these are tough topics to draw cartoons about. It would certainly be easier to do fun topics, but not always the job of an editorial cartoonist. And recently, there have been some tremendous challenges and disappointments and outrageous reports issued about the sexual misconduct and the mishandling of it at LSU. So I did this cartoon for today. This is the rough sketch that I sent Peter. And this is a young man and woman walking across campus, and they're saying, remember when our mascot was a tiger, and the tiger is now an ostrich. So that is the rough sketch that Peter approved. This is the final pen and ink drawing. And this is what the cartoon looked like in the newspaper today. Here are a couple of cartoons that have not run. This was one that was an option for today, but we chose to do this cartoon instead. But I'll show it to you. It'll probably never run because hopefully we'll be way past coronavirus next St. Patrick's Day. But this was the idea. This guy saying, Irish, no, but I am double vaccinated, with his kiss me button. And here's one that I have on the drawing board that hopefully will run in the next few days or week or so, entitled The New Zoom. And it's some kids running over to greet their grandmother who's been vaccinated. So I have lots and lots of rough sketches. I posted a picture on Facebook recently of about a 18 or 19 inch pile of ideas stacked on top of one another that is piled up on the side of my desk. I throw nothing away. And when I come up with a sketch or an idea or a general concept for something that I might think would make an interesting cartoon, I always keep it. And I either scan it and put it into my computer where I have thousands of ideas that have not been used, or I have it on this big pile on the side of my desk. So let's go through some cartoons that harken back to 2020. I did a bunch of cartoons when we were all in lockdown and quarantine. This was the most popular one that I did. It had tens of thousands of shares on Facebook. You may have seen it. It's a couple of kids, and the one kid saying, Mom, we need haircuts, and the other guy saying, I'm Dad. So we all went through the bad hair days. Hopefully we're coming out on the other side of that. Also, we were stuck inside binge watching shows. So I did this cartoon. We're binge watching a show about superheroes. There were so many stories about the heroics in the ICU units, as well as so many other people that helped out throughout the past year. A lot of times I like to do a cartoon that just sort of touches on a moment, how we all feel. And it was really tough, especially in a place like Louisiana where people are big huggers, not to be able to have any personal contact with people. So I drew this cartoon, Group Hug 2020. And of course, there were so many divisions in the country, even over coronavirus, many of which remain today. The battles over people not wanting to mask and not wanting to social distance, which spilled into politics. It all became very ugly. I drew this cartoon, The Divided States of Pandemica. And here's another cartoon about sort of the strangeness of living during a pandemic and lockdown, the online dating scene where everybody's face is covered up with masks and you're not actually meeting people. Then did this cartoon about the ongoing mask debate. And there is an I in unity, but unfortunately in this case we used it differently. So of course each state, along with the political divisions, if you will, in Washington, each state had their own set of issues. Here, the governor was very slow and careful and followed the science in terms of opening up, but he had his legislature wanting to go much quicker. So he's doing a thing here that says the reopening duet, and he's saying it starts slowly, follow me. And of course, we have the legislature back there with a tuba ready to blow it wide open. And then occasionally I would have some fun with sort of terms that we had not heard before, or we really hadn't used before. So this is a couple, and the wife is saying, where are you going? Who's going to be there? When will you be home? Who's driving? Do you have your phone? And the kid is saying, Jimmy's parents are the original contact tracers. Occasionally, I really like cartoons that don't have a lot of words in them. And I did this cartoon about hopefully trying to influence people to wear masks to slow the spread. So I did this one called Surge Protector. Here's one about Mardi Gras. But now we won't catch anything. I think that's the point. Now, in New Orleans, the mayor, LaToya Cantrell, talked about during the pandemic starting a no driving zone in the quarter, perhaps as a spinoff after the pandemic. So I had some fun with this. This guy saying, I'll meet you there. I think my Uber's here. And this horse is saying, you, Bob? Another one about our division. People argue about everything these days. No, they don't. Now, in the middle of it all, we had an incredible hurricane season, which was quite a challenge for mostly the folks in Southwest Louisiana, but for all of us. I drew this cartoon. Sally is a cat 1. New Orleans is in phase 2. The state's in phase 3. Laura was a cat 4, and I need a 5th. I also drew this one as the hurricane season wore on. The cleanup begins in a state where people are known for pulling together. Of course, the biggest problems took place after Hurricane Laura, the power outages and all the problems in Lake Charles. I drew this one a couple weeks later in the hopes that people would remember and help. And then as the season grew even longer, I drew this cartoon. It's just until the 2020 hurricane season is over. So at Halloween, I did this one. It's not a costume. I've been like this since February. And that, of course, leads us to the national politics, which was like a a virus in and of itself. We had the Trump presidency. This virus is just going to magically disappear. His aide is saying, those are your poll numbers. We had the Democrats. I'm excited about Biden. Check his temperature. More problems. The president grounded a fleet of airplanes, and here the Republicans are saying, how do we get him to ground this fleet with the never-ending tweeting? And then we had the Democratic fight within the party, pull left, drift right, level out, stay in the center, swing right, hard left, let me steer. When the election was over, it really wasn't over. And I did this one about the Trump lawsuits pouring in. When Edwards ran against Risponi, I did this cartoon. There's been a major development in the governor's race with Kojo taking the lead. And just like this power meeting, this online meeting here with Rotary, it's never quite the same. I watched the conventions. The Democratic convention did a balloon drop. This virtual balloon drop lacks its original pizzazz. And then there was the whole controversy with the QAnon members in Congress. We should have distanced ourselves from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now we're infected with a mutant strain. So there are divisions in not only the Democratic Party, but clearly in the Republican Party. And that the insurrection at the Capitol led to a second impeachment. The president was in Mar-a-Lago. I had this cartoon, have another TV sent up to the presidential suite. And then ultimately, Biden was sworn in. I took this old portrait of the founding fathers 232 years later, and our instruction manual still works. Trying to infuse some hope into the process that that the system works ultimately. Of course, 2020 also brought us the horrific death of George Floyd, which we're about to have the trial for. The injustice is there, and Lady Justice saying she can't breathe because of the racism involved and the whole racial injustice in America brought to the forefront. I also did this cartoon on the same topic when John Lewis passed away, entitled The March Toward Justice Continues, with this caricature of him being made up of all of the marchers, civil rights, and equality as more of a graphic visualization. And along with the hurricanes, we have Louisiana seems to always be under threat. So here I have the Climate Science Deniers Club being flooded out. He's saying our meeting's canceled due to flooding once again. Last year, actually in 2019, the paper, I did a 2-page spread on the problems and the issues that we face due to climate change. The spillway being opened, sullying the lake, and the brackish water, the problems with algae growth in the Gulf, all coming from so much of the same issues. And of course, this are coastal erosion issues, which continue to be a problem. In New Orleans, they have a particular problem with the water, and it's not so much to do with, well, it is flooding, but the pipes are so old. I drew this cartoon after they found some cars in a pipeline. How old are these pipes? They just pulled that car out of there. Only in New Orleans could they finally take a good look at the drainage system and find some cars in there. Cars, amazing. I did this cartoon, this airport traffic's insane. We're at Popeyes. Recently, I did a fun cartoon. It's the fastest way to local herd immunity with the drive-through daiquiris and vaccines, the Pfizer Fizz, the Moderna Mojito, and the J&J Jello shots. People really enjoyed this one. And we're not quite there yet. So Valentine's Day, I did this cartoon. This is one from just the other day. It's daylight savings time, and the guy says, can you set our clock to May, when they're hoping to have everyone vaccinated? And of course, there's a rover on Mars. These Martians are saying, we need a moratorium on new drilling, as their house is being shaken. I did this one last week when Texas and Mississippi completely lifted their mask mandate. So this was just a fun drawing, and I thought a good point. I did this one a week or so ago when the vaccinations really began to roll out. A play on the just married. And then at Mardi Gras, we had Mardi Gras, of course, was canceled. But this year they came up with this float houses, which was very ingenious. And I'm predicting it will stick around because the houses were really cool. And I did this cartoon with a guy saying, go to sleep, with a woman saying, go to sleep, Harold. Nobody's going to flash our house float. This goofy guy is standing there staring out the window like he's at a parade. Now we're back into politics again, and we have Joe Biden having his own difficulties at the border with the surge of migrants and obviously no quick solutions. But the biggest story really around here recently has been the LSU scandal. And I use this as a way to get to another scandal, which is this couple and the kids are saying sexual misconduct, inappropriate touching, shameless denials. And this guy says Andrew Cuomo coached at LSU. So that was a way to get another big national topic in the news. This is some sports-related cartoons. Today's playoff game is brought to you by AARP, Geritol, Senior Scooters, and Prostate Plus. That was during the Breeze-Brady matchup, which did not go the way I wanted it to, but nonetheless, Drew Brees was a phenomenon for the Saints, for New Orleans, for all of Houdat Nation. Unfortunately, his time came and he retired. So I drew this cartoon this week with all of the things that he brought to the city and to the state, and used the little saying in that number. Here are some just fun cartoons that I always bring to my speeches that I think are fun. These are some older ones. This is when Colorado legalized pot. What kind of grass you been feeding that horse? And I did this one on aging baby boomers. Losing all these rockers from our generation is making me feel old. Cold? No, I'm wearing a sweater. And of course, back when Mardi Gras was really a full-fledged Mardi Gras, I did this cartoon. Be on the lookout for anything unusual. And along with doing the cartoons, which, as I described earlier, involve coming up with a concept, doing the drawing, and of course, writing a punchline, I get to do occasionally some side things. So I was happy enough to do these cartoons about Joe Burrow and the Tigers winning the national championship, which was awesome and really fun. And then, as Robert mentioned, one of the most popular things that I do at the paper is the cartoon caption contests every week. And I did these caption contests when I was in New York, and we got a few responses, but nothing like we get here. And I'm convinced it's because everyone here has a great sense of humor, and they are also funny personalities. People are very much characters here, and they like to tell jokes, so they're not shy. People in Louisiana have never been accused of being shy. So I started doing these caption contests, and I was amazed at the amount of responses that we got, and it has grown and grown and grown. So I just thought I'd show you a couple. I did this one actually during the flooding in New Orleans, and when they found those cars. And I'm showing you this one because it had the most responses of any we've ever had, well over 800. And I thought the punchline that the person wrote was really funny. So this is what I offered them to fill in, and this was the punchline. He says, now what did you find? He says, there's another city down there and they're pumping the water up, which I thought was incredibly creative. It's really hard to pick a winner. We get so many funny entries, which is why we generally run a lot of finalists. But I look for an entry that's a little off base, a little different than some of the ones that we get. And this is one that we did last week with the crawfish in a hot tub with their little his and hers towels. And I thought this punchline was really clever. This person wrote in, is that Larry and Joan sunbathing on that paper over there? It looks like they're getting burned. It's very clever stuff. So that's a bunch of my work. And I would show you an animation, but I tried this on Zoom before and it kind of stuttered and didn't play very well. So why don't we go to question and answer and see if you have any questions for me.
Enjoy having the cartoons more than anything else in the paper, honestly. We do have a quick question here. Susan Nelson wants to know, it seems you need two skills as an editorial cartoonist, the ability to draw and a degree of wit and humor about current events. Which of these did you realize you had a talent for first?
Well, I had a talent for being a smart aleck in school, and my teachers would tell you that I was always one with a funny line, and I'm being generous. So I think early on I had a sense of humor, and I think I got that from my parents, who were both very clever and funny. And the cartooning was something that really I developed much later on. And that took a lot of discipline to learn from scratch sort of how to do that. And over a period of time, I developed a style. So you are correct. That's a good question there. It really is a double skill set. But as I would tell students that ask, the most important thing is to have a point of view and to be able to make a comment about social or political events and be able to synthesize very complicated issues into a single quick take is really where the skill is, and where the difficulty of the job, I should say, is in that. The drawing over a period of many years is second nature and fun, but that is sort of the process.
So I have a question for you. When you're deciding to draw a cartoon, how much time do you allot yourself, and how much time do you spend in just thinking up the concept, and then how much time does it take you to actually draw and then paint the whole thing?
Well, thinking up the concept takes up most of my morning. So I like to have my ideas in to my editor or have a discussion with him anywhere between 12 and 1 o'clock, which is somewhat late because, as I said, my deadline is 5. I prefer to beat the deadline. And it also depends on what I'm drawing. If, like, for instance, the cartoon that I showed where there was a mask in the shape of Louisiana, that was not a complex drawing. That whole cartoon probably took an hour to draw. But some of the other ones involving, drawing a horse and part of the French Quarter, or drawing somebody canoeing down the Mississippi River, or drawing the White House and people outside is considerably more complicated. So, there is no stability in terms of the time differential every day. Like some people's jobs, they know from 9 to 11, I'm going to do this task, and then I'm going to do. My job is really quite haphazard on how the time is divided up. And amazingly, and I've talked to other cartoonists about this, and we all agree that sometimes when you're really in a crunch on deadline, you somehow do your best work. You're in a panic. There is no missing of deadlines. And it forces you to be very simple. Simplistic ideas sometimes are the best. But it is a challenge every day to balance the time. And the artwork, the drawing, the coloring takes quite a long time.
Bill Peters wants to know, when you open your cartoon contest, do you already have something in mind as to what you're looking for?
I get that. Even my wife asks me sometimes, what are you looking for? And I said, really, I don't have any idea, because it's the one time where I am not tasked with writing a punchline. So what I'm trying to do is really do a funny drawing that doesn't have too many elements. I did a caption contest years ago, and I think it was like a kid playing football with a cat in front of the Superdome. There was a newspaper headline. There was a guy on a scooter, and it was a terrible disaster because there was way too much going on. So what I try and do is just set up a funny concept and then let the punchline, let the readers surprise me. They really do. And it's amazing. We have so many creative folks out there. And there are a handful of ones that are finalists quite a bit. They're very, very funny. Jay Darden actually is one of them. He's just very funny. We've talked about it in person. He's witty, and these are ideas that are not sort of regular ideas. So the tough part is picking the winner, I think. I usually go through them the night of, at midnight. I literally stay up till midnight and wait till all of them come in and then read them all. And there's a lot to read. And I'll cut it down to maybe 35 or 40. And then I'll pull out maybe the 5 or 6. The ones that are naturally, they're just hilarious. And the other thing that I really try and do, and I've done this from the beginning, is I don't put politics into it. I think I do enough political stuff in my work. And I look at this as a kind of reprieve from the serious stuff that we go through. And I think that's one of the things I enjoy about it. And it may be one of the reasons that we get so many responses, because it's just a chance to take a breather. And I do focus a lot on local stuff. My stuff is nationally syndicated. Not surprisingly to the people on the Zoom call, many of the things that I do about Louisiana get picked up nationally, because people find Louisiana, New Orleans, the politics here fascinating. And unfortunately, sometimes our national news, our local news becomes national news, but many times it's sort of the fun, quirky stuff. And I get a big pleasure out of seeing even the cartoon about the fans in Louisiana ran last week in the Washington Post. And I just get a big kick out of that, because it shows that people are really paying attention to our state. But the caption contests have been a big, big plus. It's a great way to connect with people. I call the winner personally every week, and the response is really, to me, overwhelming. It's so much fun. And actually, I worked at home before the pandemic, and of course I still work at home, and I go to the office occasionally, but my studio and whatever is here. And the caption contest is the one time that I really connect with readers other than giving presentations. So it's really fun to talk to people. And I got an awful lot of nice comments during the entries in the emails as well. So it's nice.
Well, Walt, thank you very much for spending some time with us again, and really have enjoyed. As Judith, you see there, she's, we've very much enjoyed having you share your cartoons with us. I know it's my favorite thing to read every morning in the paper. So thanks again for coming to Rotary.
I appreciate it. As I said, I gave a Zoom presentation to a Rotary club in Northern California about 2 weeks ago, and I think I made them jealous, because I told them that I speak to one of the largest Rotary clubs in the country with the Baton Rouge group. So hopefully, maybe next year, I can get an in-person invite, because I can tell you from my perspective, it's way more fun to hear people laughing and responding to the cartoons. But I was glad to help out today, and it's nice to be able to reach out to the folks in Baton Rouge. So thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you, Walt. Okay, so that's our meeting. If you have not yet got your vaccination, please do so. It's important for everybody to get vaccinated as soon as possible. Next week, our meeting will be here again, 12:15. Our speaker will be Maxine Crump, talking about the importance of historical honesty. And Shard Richard, our vice president, will be hosting that meeting. I will not be here. Probably be an improvement for you. You're tired of seeing me, because I'm tired of seeing me too on these little screens. So in the meantime, Stay safe, mask up, and we'll see you, remember, April 7th back at Drusilla.